Hi everyone, Chuck Hamilton here, once again with another pilot interview. Today we have a very special guest, Ali Machinchy from the Horizon brand on the air side. And today we finally, I've been trying to capture you last time I saw you, but everything's so busy in the world. But hey, English from England,
Yep.
right? And did you work for Horizon over there? I know you have a history with your father and your hobby shops, but were you on the Horizon brand side over there?
No, I was a Horizon team pilot for about 7 years before the offer came in, tentatively to move to the US to become field marketing manager. That changed during the visa process. It took about 2 years to get a visa to live here and work here. And in that time, transition became senior product development, and I took that. So yeah, I moved here in 2015.
And we love having you. We've seen the curve, if you will, the Horizon brand on the product development, the advances you guys have made, and obviously you've been a big part of that. But I want to step back a little bit. Obviously, you and your father have 2 or 3 hobby shops. Was it Al's Hobbies?
Yeah.
In England?
Yeah, Al's Hobbies. We started in '98. I left university with a marketing degree. He was running a chain of hobby shops for a big brand in the UK called Max.
Yep.
And yeah, like I said, I went into it and said, look, I think we can make this work. We started out Al's Hobbies '98. The peak was about 2004. We had 6 stores. Yeah, right now we're operating from a singular store.
And that's a double. Is that a double stack? Was that 2 layer? I saw one.
It was, yeah. The second layer stopped becoming a store a few years ago.
And more becoming a hanger.
Well, no, my father is a very big fan of collecting retro RC radios, kits. We call it his collection, and it's grown so much that it's taken up all of it upstairs. So.
Andy, we got to get you over there to see that. Andy's a big collector of the retro stuff.
I only have about 300 transmitters.
Yeah,
so
very cool. But I must admit, you and I talked a little bit about this yesterday. There's 2 things I remember watching YouTube when YouTube first came out, and the name Ali come up was the big, massive Sky Raider, the 33%er. I think Phil Clark built that.
Yeah, that was fighter races. That was the beginning of fighter races. Phil came to my store as a retail customer, and we knew each other, obviously, such a small circuit. But we started chatting in the back room, and he was a cabinet maker at the time, and he said, I love it, but I don't get the end result. So I said, would you take commissions? And he's like, hey, thought about it, and I had the first Moki 400, nothing to put it in. So it was one of those real spitball conversations, like every modeler does. Wouldn't it be cool if I forgot, I was dealing with Phil Clark. There's no, it can't happen.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, it was
happening.
Yeah, he'd spoken to Zeroli, he'd enlarged the plans, and it became a 3-year-long project and made the big Sky Raider.
Yeah, that I just remember watching it. That's like the early days of YouTube, right? And I remember just seeing the thing. Dear God, that is so cool. The Moki 400, never heard of a 400 Moki. Yep. And now this big, massive Sky Raider flying. And Phil was introduced, you're introduced. I go, this is great. This is where I need to be. And then the famous Hunter video that we talked about, which is probably the most impressive fireball I've ever seen from a model airplane. That one at Top Gun this year was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to skip the sad story on that in the Hunter. But
it happens. It was a operating mistake. I just didn't charge the batteries, and it's one of those. I think probably one of the first viral model videos.
Exactly.
It was, last time I checked, it was well over 10 million views between the different places it's posted. But it's a good example or a good lesson to anyone that it can happen to us all. It's pure complacency on my behalf. I thought it was an invincible system, and I've been flying the day before, and I thought, it'd be good to fly today, and I guess not.
Yeah. So, like a good lesson. It's never a mistake if you learn from it. Yeah. Right?
Every time I charge a set of packs, I remember that. Every time I have that, should I put charge in this or should I? And I'm always reminded of that Hunter crash. I've got lots of YouTube hits out there to do that. So yeah.
Awesome. Say, okay, so now we're going to roll you back into your product development role.
Yep.
And coming into a project, I know your first one was on the Oscar, which you and I have talked about before. That was you were trying to find a fit for your radio, right?
The Oscar was probably, I think, my 5th or 6th Hangar 9 project I'd done. The radio was an option. Was a goal. The main goal, believe it or not, behind the Oscar was to answer the the criticism we've been receiving as a brand of not doing anything outside the box. It's a stereotype that we hear a lot. You know, your Horizon, you only make Cubs and Mustangs, and you know, it's funny because we do make Cubs and Mustangs. We also make a lot of other stuff. So, you know, I went to my bosses, our team, and said, I want to make this, you know, Axis.
How hard was that?
Really hard, really. For a good solid year, if not more, I had pushback hard, no, can't happen, won't let it happen. And then we had a bit of a shuffle around in the team internally. One key member left and pursued a career in Asia for a little while. And yeah, that was the biggest roadblock. That went away. And yeah, got green lighted to say, you know, it's on your own head sort of thing, go for it. And yeah, it was always just trying to make that whole, we don't just make Cubs and Mustangs.
Well, you must have been successful because we were up at Muncie a couple weeks ago, and what, there was a picture of 9
we had at Muncie, yeah.
And
9 assembled, and there was 2 others in trailers.
And I've got one in primer and paint, and you know, that's got to give you some really personal satisfaction. When
Amazing.
You see that, and you know, we know years ago where we saw Big Beautiful Dolls or Tall Her House everywhere, right?
Yep.
But here we got you single-handedly, and you've got these awesome pieces.
I wouldn't say single-handedly, it's a team effort.
Yes,
we have marketing and purchasing and the logistical side of it. But yeah, from a personal standpoint, it's the biggest reward. You know, I don't get paid any less or any more on the ratio of planes that are sold. So yeah, my biggest reward is to go out to the field and see people enjoying them. And how, you know, getting that feedback. There's a sense of ownership, a sense of pride.
I'm sure.
Interestingly enough, as a product, it's not been deemed as a success, believe it or not. As we see it as a success as modelers, because we go to an event and there's 11 of them at one event. A company on Horizon's level size, the volume is still not what's considered as a success. So it's been a big learning curve for me. As much as I've enjoyed doing it, I've had to eat some humble pie. And say, you know, if that was a Corsair, it would have sold 3 times as many. If it was a Mustang, it probably would have sold 4 times. No, 4. Mustang's the one. It's the safe bet. You know, we have sales numbers to back that up.
Right.
We looked at when we bought the remains of Hobbico, the top flight numbers. The Mustang versus the Zero, it wasn't even worth doing the Zero, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's good stuff. That's good that, and I'm sure there's calls with all the internet we have and everything that's out in the public these days, that people understand that, you know, there's data behind all this.
Yes.
Even what I do, you do, and I know you and I had a conversation the other day about some technology and how what a small percentage that it needs to solve that problem, okay, and the effort it does to take that. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's 3/4% of the company's gross revenues.
It's been a real challenge for me, and an eye-opener as well, seeing how the market actually plays out. Because I'm a lifelong modeler like you, and I've got, you know, my favourite planes and die-hard aviation fan, and it doesn't transpire into what is quantified as sales for a big company.
Right. And you got boats. You've got cars.
Yeah. Hobby.
It's hobby. Yeah. So, and all that quantifies into and numbers at the end of the year when the board gets together and do their thing, and
But plane-wise, you know, we read all the time, you should make, or how about this? And everyone's got their own personal favourites. You know, why don't you make a DO, whatever, or a really obscure World War I airplane? That'd be so different. I'd buy one. Okay, you'd buy one, that's great. We now need to sell another 300 to fill in one container.
Right.
So,
and then the boxing size and shipping everything, that's all.
It's so much more complicated.
And that's probably maybe even another video at some point to really inform the public on everything that goes so far behind bringing an airplane to development. So let's talk about your latest baby, because this thing is badass.
Yeah, this was another one of those personal projects that just sort of skipped in under the radar, and it's a funny story about that, which we might touch on. But yeah, the OV-10 was my baby. I got a green light to do a twin. I went to my team and said, right, is it worth going? We used to be big in the aerobatic segment. Now, to me, when I look at the numbers and I look at the players in that segment, it's not worth Hangar 9 going into that. Okay, so there's one example. I identified that we didn't have a twin. So I said, look, guys, can I make a scale twin? Sure, go. I had 2 projects I put up, personal favourites and ones that scored well on the tick box system. OV-10 and Aerocommand, Strike Aerocommand.
Oh, right.
Both favourites, both pretty popular airplanes. but the OV-1 on the tick box system. The tick box system for me is how many boxes does it tick?
Right.
The OV lost out predominantly, the Aero Commander lost out because of the gear. It's got a very long main gear, huge main wheels,
high wing,
and they twist and turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sort of ruled that one out. We ended up with the OV, and it was originally going to be 90 inch. And part of the process of what I do is working with our vendors, battling, even before wood is cut, we're battling on price and shipping and box sizes and artwork and the wish list of complications like gear doors and so forth. And in that battle, I sort of tried to call their bluff, and I said, right, it's 90 inch at the moment. What would it cost to make it 110 inch? And they came back and said, same price. Thinking there's no way that they're going to commit to 110
you had a number in your head where it was your target number.
And I'm thinking, hold on a second, it's the same price, I'll just go for it. So I did it, made the prototype 110 inch. Didn't correct our computer system at work, we call it QuickBase, which is the management system for every project. Yep. And yeah, long story short, we got to the end of the project and it still had 90 inches written on it. And part of the process is I've got to go to the teams, purchasing, account, all of them, and say, right, this is it. You know, we need a green light to make it. And one of the purchasing teams was like looking at it going, I can see him looking at the paperwork and he's like, about the size. And I was like, and I changed the subject quickly because at that point they could have turned around and said, you know, it's bigger, and killed the project. And luckily they didn't. We sort of scooted through under the radar, and yeah, we got the OV-10 that I've always wanted. You know, a big, light, fun, super simple, practical for a giant scale twin as it comes, and really versatile in the way it flies. So yeah, I'm super pleased with this.
And I know when you guys introduced this, and I think I was on one of your, it was a podcast with you and Craig, and or live chat, I should say, and I asked the question, did you guys weather this, or was this the way it came? And I must admit, of course, I'm a graphic artist by training, but outstanding, next level on the covering. Your new team did an amazing job. This is out of the box.
It was one of my targets, my goals when I moved to HH, and particularly the Hangar 9 development team. I threw it out there as a mission statement. I said, I don't want to make another Ultra Coat covered warbird. Ultra Coat for me has its place, great, but for me personally, I was like, no more.
Andy, cover your ears.
Can't stand it. I hate the stuff. But on a warbird, great. So we started with the 20cc Mustang and the P47. I found a vendor that prints onto this vinyl, this special self-adhesive vinyl. And yeah, I said, you know, from the get-go, I see you print on it, but I want detail. So we started with the P47, which was just some panel lines and some hatches, which is good. Okay, was a start. Then the P51, which I said, look, I want some weathering, so they did some exhaust staining. And then it was the Oscar, which went very heavily on the weathering, in comparison to the previous two. And then it was the OV-10, and I said, right, you know, I think we've learned enough. Let's go for it. Let's, you know, throw caution to the wind. I want a in-service, war-torn, not a pretty, you know, not an off-the-production line OV. So, and they did a great job. It's a laser-printed file, so every rivet, every panel line is drawn onto a file, and then it's printed onto these huge sheets of this textured vinyl. And that's the secret, it's a texture. It's not super smooth. And the reason why we went with the textured is multifaceted. One, because it takes the detail really well.
Right.
Two, is because it paints really well. You can, if you want to, and I realise that a lot of people out there have hopes and dreams and aspirations of personalising an art. I wanted a surface that could just take paint straight away. So that's this. This will, without any etch primer, any heavy scuffing. I mean, we've got one guy that's literally not even any primer that's painted on top of it. He did an Oscar silver, pure silver. He just rattle-canned it
the way he went.
Yeah, and that's what we have here. So we do get a lot of questions like, oh, you know, how much extra weathering have you done? And other than all the dents and dings, because this is the very first prototype, which has been around a long time and seen a lot of action. The rest of it is all out of the box.
And there's 3 power choices: electric, gas. Have you done a glow one on this one yet? Has there been a 4-stroke glow?
No, I haven't. No. Okay. There's a couple of guys in Europe who are fitting turboprops, actually turbine-powered turboprops. We should see those next year. We've got a guy in the US that took an idea that I had from the get-go, so I designed the back box so a turbine could fit in there. Okay. So hopefully next year you'll see one flying with a jet sticking out the back end. So what I call my poor man's turboprop. I want to turn up to a jet meet with this and they say you can't fly, and I'm like,
Yeah, let me fire this up. We're all good.
Yeah, it's such a versatile airplane.
So, time frame from I have an idea to your first flight. 2 years.
2 years is our goal. I've snuck a couple in, like the Ultra Sticks. They've snuck in at 12, 13 months.
All right.
I've had a project take 4 years. But yeah, 2 years is our normal, using our regular vendors from the birth to market.
Fantastic. It's quite a unique subject. I really applaud you guys for getting out of that box. You know, it's very easy for a company to get in their comfort zones, as it really is. And you've stepped out there, you've challenged your teams, and the end result. And from my little knowledge, it has to be a very well accepted model. And
it's been good.
At the end of the year, or probably another year, you'll realize. If it's on the board side, let's call it, if it's a success. But,
it's exceeded expectations as far as numbers, because it's a big company has numbers, targets. The problem with it is the complexity of construction. My factory, or the factory that we use, my liaison there, explained it to me really well, which was it takes as long building the fuselages on this as it takes. It's actually 4, but 3 of the smaller warbirds. It's 3 fuselages.
Right.
So it's 3 times as long, and then the size of it, and then the complexity of it, and the gear doors, and the plastic molded parts, and
the size of the canopy alone.
Yeah, it's that. If we're going to be critical, as a project, it's been successful. As a financial or economic success, it's been too big and complicated to be truly successful. So, but that was always, we knew that going in. It was never a surprise. And it goes back to what I said earlier about segments. I identified the high end of the market at the time. We hadn't played in it much at Hangar 9, so let's go after that. On the flip side, right now, we're actively looking at the next projects at Hangar 9 being focused at the more entry level.
Or transitioning level.
The crossover is what we're really looking for. We're looking at taking people from their Carbon ZT28s or Cessnas and Cubs and introducing them to the wonderful world of wood ARS. So the next ARS from Hangar 9, certainly for the next year, will be focused at that end of the market.
That's perfect. It's what we need. Awesome. Well, hey, I know we're still here flying. We're here in beautiful Rosewood, Indiana. Probably one of the most scenic flying sites I've ever been across, and I want to get you back out flying. I know you got to do your job.
I promised somebody a try me on the OV. It's something I've been doing all summer, which is sharing it, because it's for me, sharing is the best part of the hobby. There's one guy that wants to do a try me, and then I think I'm done for the weekend or week.
Yep. Fantastic. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much for joining us here. On behalf of myself, Ollie, the Warbird Classics Alliance, Andrew Gideon, and all our friends out there, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again in another pilot interview.